tonight. I'm the president of the club. And welcome, Fadia.
Thank you so much.
For being here. It's such an honor to have you and to have your daughter, Samara. Say hi. Yeah. So the speaker series is put together by Joni, Fraser, and Karen Blum, and it highlights amazing women in our community that are doing amazing things. I won't go into detail because I want them to kind of go into the details, but since I'm the biggest cheerleader of the Amherst Women's Club, let me tell you about the club. We have a few things coming up that I want to tell you about. We have a concert on Sunday, February 25th. In addition, we have ongoing programming. It's going to be a young man named Noah Ferris. He's he's from the local high school. He is the cello player, and he's so proud of playing here on the 25th that he made this beautiful flyer. He has been just going all out. So please come out to support him on the 25th. We also have the book group on the 28th, and Lori is the head of our book group. They meet in the library here if you'd like to join them. And we are also going to have a meet and mingle on February 29th. It's not on the list here, but it's on their website. It's going to be, I can't remember exactly where it is, but I know it's here downtown. She just chose the restaurant last night, so we'll put that on the website. And
What time is that?
it's at 6 p.m. And it's actually a great event. We had the last one at the Commonwealth Restaurant at UMass, and that was actually so much fun because you actually get to talk to other people and sit down and meet people that you haven't talked to or met. And the best way of making friends is actually by repetition. So if you'll see somebody here once a month, and you'll be like, oh, hey, I saw you last month. Kind of like I saw Damien. And then now I saw Damien again, and now I'm like, hey, Damien, you want to go out to lunch? It's repetition. So at this event, you actually sit down and get to know the other person, like other people in the club. And so I really recommend that you guys take the time to go and sit there and have dinner and meet other members. That's the whole point of the club, is to make friends. Now I will pass it down to Joni.
Thank you all for coming. It's really nice to see folks, and it's nice to see people from not even in this area. We have folks from Connecticut here. So thank you all for coming out. We are super excited to have Fadia here tonight. She's going to talk about building a community of difference and belonging. And I'm excited because the topic has so much applicability to our lives, and it has so many aspects of our lives, including just work, friends, or hobbies, whatever. But it has to do with what's going on here in the club too. So I think that's certainly a great thing to aspire to for the Women's Club as well. So thank you for coming and talking about these things.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll try my best.
You have a lot of experience being in the area. I don't know if folks know that Fadia got her BA from Hampshire and MA and PhD from UMass on communications. And she is doing so much. It makes
know.
my head spin. Yeah? Is that the one?
She travels with me a lot.
Well, she's going to have a fantastic role model. I mean, you're the founder of Collaboratively, a consulting company that provides services on a model of diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging, and sustainability, and that you created. And she's also a producer of a public access television show here.
And
in
Amherst Media is one of the partners.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I know that you can see it on YouTube because I've gone in and looked at some of those, and it's all out there for folks to see. Fadia's also working on a new book in the Routledge Sustainability and Business series called Millennials, Gen Z, and the Fair Trade Revolution in the United States and Pakistan, which sounds like a super...
Bangladesh.
Oh, Bangladesh. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
So with all of this going on, I just have one question. When do you sleep?
I do sleep. She knows, I do sleep, but when I sleep, I pass out. So when people tell me that they have sleep problems, I'm like, Oh, I wish I don't have those, because if I don't get my full nights of sleep with everything I do, like you said, I really need it. So yeah,
Well, with
I'm
all-
blessed with no sleep problems so far.
Well, thank you again for
Yeah.
agreeing to be here tonight and
Thank you.
take it away.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is really an honor, really, because most of the time I was just telling them that I go to places to talk about directly my work. You know, just yesterday I was invited back to my alma mater, Hampshire College, to do a workshop on microaggressions and how we can work with this idea about what is microaggressions, how do we have communities understand what is microaggressions, and how do we not enact them and just be nice to each other. So that was the workshop that I did. It's much easier doing a workshop like that than actually sitting down in front of a group of people where you have to sort of connect the dots and talk about yourself for an hour. So yeah, I'm gonna try my best to connect the dots. So what I wanted to sort of focus on as per my title of the event is that really I reflected whenever you get invited to stuff like this, and I've had the honor in November where my daughter was there with me. I was invited just a couple of months ago in a similar space. Hampshire College invited me back to be a keynote speaker, speaking about my experience of 20 years after graduating, and according to them, I'm a success story, so therefore they invited me back to talk about my journey in the last 20 years. So I feel like this event is a similar sort of feel, because again, I have to reflect back. What do I talk to a community in Amherst about my 20-year journey here? And so I went back and I realized one of the ways of doing that would be to give you a little bit of my journey of what got me here. And I've written some questions that will help me, that will guide me to answer you well, because I also don't want you to be sitting bored. You can ask me questions that I've written out that are in, they're not in all the chairs. Monique?
I have some here.
Yeah, so there's more, so we can pass them around so that folks can use it. You can have one. That way we can, this is yours, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. So, you know, I wrote out some smart, are you sitting on one? Can you check?
No, there's nothing.
Because I think you have asked me enough questions all the time anyways. So the reason for that is I was just speaking with you, and I'd love to know your names in a little bit, is I'm a professor, you'll find out, I'll talk to you about that. And when I was her age, actually younger than her age, she's 10, I have a photo of me holding a teacher stick, pointing at, my parents still have that photo, like it was like me around 7 years of age. I was holding up a teacher stick, and like my parents brought me a blackboard and chalk and stuff. My favorite thing was to pretend to be a teacher when I grew up. Like that was my favorite thing to do. I always knew I wanted to teach in some way, like I just knew it. What I didn't know was how far that dream would go in really tapping into what I think I excel at the most. And I excel at it, I firmly believe, because I really enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work to me. I love teaching, I love communicating with people, and it's such a privilege to hold a room and to be able to, and it's also such a responsibility, because you really, if you want to do this job well of being a professor, you really need to keep up with the readings, with the media, with the debates, so that you don't just bore the people that are sitting in front of you, and worse than that, misinform them and misguide them into areas that they could have learned better from. So I take that very seriously. So maybe I'll give you a little overview of me, and then we can go around with you asking me the questions, because they will sort of tap into stuff that I'd like to share with you anyways. Does that seem like a decent format?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Fadia Nordtveit. I lead with my name with a doctor attached to it, and that's linked to the name of the talk. We'll come back to that's a very complicated thing that I just said. It'll make sense in a few minutes why I like to introduce myself as Dr. Fadia Nordtveit. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit with you all as sort of the lesson that I would want you all to leave with, maybe to reflect a little bit on why I like to lead with my title. When I first came to the United States of America, I was 18 and a half. I came here as an international student from Bangladesh. I was born in Sierra Leone in Freetown. My dad's job made us move in when I was younger. And my dad used to work for a Lebanese company, that multinational that was based out of Sierra Leone. The Lebanese are big business people in Africa, in a lot of African countries. And my dad worked in a multinational there, and he had a lot of Lebanese friends. He got inspired by a Lebanese name called Fadia, and he wanted to name me Fadia. It's a very uncommon name in Bangladesh, because the versions that you hear in Bangladesh is Fatima and Faria. Those are what you hear more. You just never hear Fadia. That's not a name in Bangladesh at all. And so basically what that means is no one really knows how to pronounce it anywhere I go, because no one, not in Bangladesh, not in Sierra Leone, and definitely not in the United States, because I'm either Claudia here or Fadia here or Fadia here or whatever. But it's Fadia. Okay, you can do it. I promise you. That's right. Exactly. It's simple. It's Fadia. That's it. You know what? F-A-D-I-A. And I didn't like my name a lot growing up because I thought it was too serious. I've grown into loving my name as I have grown into, I'm turning 40 in a couple of weeks. And later on I found out what the name meant, and I was surprised that my parents thought that was the name I should have. It's Fadia's meaning is Jesus, the Savior. And I'm not Christian, and I don't come from and I don't know why my parents thought naming me Fadia was a big, reason. It's a pretty heavy and big responsibility, being the Savior, And but I guess I took that to heart in some ways, maybe in my career, and I would like to talk about that as well a little bit. So I came here for college. I'll backtrack into Bangladesh and Sierra Leone and Austria. Those were my other stops in a little bit because there's a question about that. But overall, I came to Hampshire, did my undergrad. Then from that, I did my master's at UMass because I wanted more education right after. Then I wanted even more education, so I went and I did my PhD. I never took a break from one degree to another, and I worked my way through. I think I was always a workaholic, and I loved it. That was sort of just my thing. I loved working, and just makes me happy to be engaged in various things. I think that's the way I express myself best, to be busy doing different things. And I feel like I make a good role model for my daughter, who is, and my son, who's very little at the moment. But I think it's important for women to tap into what they love, and I really love working. And that's what I love, and that's what makes me happy. And people don't quite always respond very well to that, because there's still a lot of gendered ways of thinking about women, and there's a lot of presumptions, because a lot of people are like, why do you work so hard? And I'm like, first of all, I don't think it's really your business, and secondly, if you really want to know, I just doing what I love, and so just happy doing what I love. And so I think that's what I do. I work a lot, I mother a lot, I wife a lot, I'm a daughter. My father has moved here because I'm the only child, and my parents moved here 8 years ago, and because they were tired of shuttling between, I was tired and they were tired of shuttling back and forth from Bangladesh, because I have children now, and they wanted to be close to their grandchildren, and my father made a humongous sacrifice in moving here, and I will talk about that as well, because that holds a lot of meaning in my life, and it reminds me every single day the importance of humility when I look at my father. So I came from a very privileged family in Bangladesh, so it is not the stereotype of a lot of let's just say poverty-stricken brown women looking for opportunities when they come to, I came from basically the upper class of Bangladesh, where I have 5 generations of college degrees, and my grandfather was a professor from both sides. So there's a lot of education and lineage going on, and it's a very weird decision in life for me to have wanted to stay back in the United States of America, because people of my background never want to go through the life that they go through here, because life is just easier where we come from. Because we have maids, we have drivers, we have chauffeurs, we have someone cooking for you, cleaning for you. You just wake up and look great. That's what you do. And you go to work if you want to, or if you don't go to work, nobody cares. So that's sort of the general lifestyle I had, which was extremely vacuous and empty for me. I did not want that life, and I knew that very early on. I didn't want that life, as privileged and as amazing as the food is, which I miss. It's great to have, the one thing I miss is the food being ready for me, breakfast, lunch, and dinner as per exactly what I want to eat. Just showing up and then the plates being cleaned up afterwards. I don't think that can be, I miss that. I won't lie. That's probably, and she went there this past summer and she experienced some of that and she was very confused why her mother left. But really I'm very, and I think that's part of the journey that I want to discuss, that for me it was a choice that I felt at home here, that I've never felt at home anywhere else that I've lived. Which was very odd because I lived in many countries. I've lived in many thriving cities. So I was born in Freetown, which is actually we used to live on top of a hill over the Atlantic Ocean. It's sort of the Cape Cod of Africa. You can think of it that way, like big hill, nice, beautiful, secure house. Not again the stereotype of a lot of African countries that you would imagine. Our house was right next to the American ambassador, so they always have it good, we know that. So it was on top of a hill overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, the warmer part of the Atlantic Ocean. And then from there we went to Vienna, where my aunt is Austrian, my dad's sister is Austrian, and we lived there for a short stint. My dad had a job there, and then he wanted to go back to Bangladesh and start his own business. Then the rest was history till I grew up in Dhaka city, which is the capital of Bangladesh. And then I went to a really, really good high school there, middle school and elementary school. It was a bilingual school where we learned English was actually taught. It was like a school that Samara goes to, which is the Chinese immersion school in Hadley, where Chinese is the first sort of language that is taught, and English is actually taught almost like a second language in the Chinese immersion school. So I went to a school similar, which is English was taught basically as my first language, and Bengali, which is my native language, was taught as the second language. So I grew up that way. So for me, the language thing was huge, because when I came here as an international student, I saw a lot of students struggle with that. They came from other places, and their minds can't grapple the language, and that language and belonging is a huge thing. I mean, you can feel completely like a phony sometimes if you don't belong in the language you speak in every single day. And I think that's a huge privilege that I take for granted, that I really grew up with English as a native speaker. And for me, and I always tell my students, hey, I dream in English. You know what I mean? Like, I don't dream in any other language. So I feel like I have a sense of belonging in the language, which has helped me create this sense of feeling and belonging, which I think we underestimate a lot when we think about why a lot of people sometimes feel like they don't fit in and they can't figure out why in a place. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Things that drew me to this area are kind of very, very important things. One is I think I really just fell in love with the alternative culture of Western Mass. And when I say that, I understand we have pockets of everything here, meaning there's people that are more organized religion, they go to organized religious places of worship. I didn't grow up with a religious family, so for me, you can think of my parents as being the hippies of Bangladesh. They didn't force religion on me. They didn't force anything on me. I read astrology growing up. I read numerology growing up. I did what I wanted to do. I grew up in a very academic environment. No one told me what to wear, what not to wear. These are sort of the stereotypes we have about South Asians, and especially my parents are from a Muslim background, so you would think that women especially of a Muslim family are told what to wear, told what to do, told what to study, told who to marry, told who not to marry. kidnapped when they marry someone else. All these weird stereotypes never really worked for me because I and many other people I knew growing up in Bangladesh did not meet those stereotypes. And I think that's also became a part of the journey of the work that I do, because I personally don't fit into boxes very well and easily because of the upbringing that I had. And people's need to put me in boxes sort of made me want to make sense of it through the work that I do. And I've also, and it's interesting because I've called Amherst area my home, and it is a predominantly white area, but at the same time, the demographics are changing pretty rapidly. Even now, like when I came in 20 years ago, it was much different than what it is now. And we don't see it as much still, but if you notice the restaurants that we have in Amherst these days, it's changing. Like 20 years ago, we did not have so many Chinese restaurants. 20 years ago, we did not have so many Mexican restaurants. So if we even notice like the food that we're eating and what is the frequency of restaurants that are opening, I think it can tell us a little bit about the demographics that are making themselves here. Maybe not as visible as we think, or maybe not as visible, maybe because of the conversation that we're gonna have today, that maybe there's a sense of inclusion and belonging that they feel they don't have, which is why it's not as obvious and clear to us to see. So yeah, so I think my unstereotypical life and my encounter with living in this area that I love the farming here. One of the main areas I love living here is the love for organic farming and clean food. I grew up, like I said, super privileged, where my mother was hyper picky. Everything that we ate was from a fresh farm, cooked for that meal, done a certain way, with a certain health protocol. So you can imagine it's a perfect fit for me, this area, when it comes to that. People are, the farmers markets are hyper picky here. You get things that you don't get anywhere else, Amherst specifically, actually, and Northampton. So I fell in love with that. I fell in love with the wellness culture. There's a lot of alternative wellness that is available here. I fell in love with nature here. I know that it's not New Mexico, which is also another place I love, because New Mexico is big lands and big space, but I really love this sort of foresty, little house, foresty, endless forest. I seem to like it. I don't know. And so I feel good here, and that's sort of that's what I was looking for. And I think like I travel a lot to cities. I go to New York City for work, which I'll talk about in a little bit. That table, by the way, has some highlights of the work that I did, and I'll go over it a little bit later. And yeah, so overall, I think just feel good here. The part that I think I don't feel good here is the part that I think is the title, that I urge you all to maybe reflect on. Think about what is it that I'm talking about. So I belong here from my heart, because as I said, when I came here for the first time in anywhere that I've lived, I feel at home. However, as I go through my life here, oftentimes people question my sense of home repeatedly. They ask me where I'm from, then they ask me where I'm really from. I'm from here. I've lived here for 20 years, I'm 39. That's longer than I've lived anywhere else. As far as I'm concerned, this is home, and that should be the end of the story, unless I want to share more. And what I wanted to talk about here is, in the talk, the feeling of how is it that our community can help people who are like me, who have decided it's a home, to actually help us in our journey towards feeling at home, and not every time displace us, make us feel like we are foreigners when we ourselves don't feel like foreigners. So Amherst feels like a part of me, in any way more than, I visited Bangladesh after a while. It's been a few years, and I went back, because mainly I went back because of Samara. I wanted her to experience it. She has gone there before, but she was always too young. I wanted her to, she's old enough now to really remember things, understand things, feel things, taste things, ask me questions about it. And I was like, wow, this really just doesn't feel like home to me. I feel like I'm giving her a tour guide of some part of me that was from some time ago. I mean, of course there's a childhood connection, but I wasn't even born there. But but people want to label me as the person from Bangladesh. So imagine when you are constantly made to feel like that over and over again, and why do we have the right to place someone into a space that they don't feel is their home? So that is a part of being in this community that I hope that we all can start thinking about, that what responsibilities do we have for each other so that we can help each other feel more at home rather than more out of home and displaced and questioning of whether they need to be here or should they be here. Because not all of us have the sense of, I would say I'm like super grounded as a person, even if I'm saying it, I don't allow like others to impact me that much, just because I've just grown a very thick skin growing up, but I don't think everybody's like me. And even, I think I've met a lot of people that really get impacted by this, I would call it as far as harassment, where you are actually made to feel like you really just should, you lose it one day and you're like, you know what, no one gets me, I shouldn't be here because I don't belong here. But I don't think the community decides that. We need to sort of allow for a person's journey to reveal themselves, and the most responsibility that we have is to create that sense of belonging and aid them as kind spirits in making them feel better. And if they want to leave on their own, they do. But I don't think I want to be part of anyone's journey to be like, I kind of drove you away from somewhere because I just had too many weird questions to ask you. So yeah, so I just wanted to sort of talk about that has been a struggle here. Another struggle has been for sure, and this is not a unique struggle here. I would say because I come from a more unconventional family, as I said, we are very academically inclined, we are very culturally inclined, not religious. I think there has always been a lot of surprise and questioning about why are we like this? But my question back is, no, not my question back, I guess my response back is that I actually know a lot of people that don't fill into boxes, and that would surprise you. And maybe we need to try and let go of these boxes and ideas that we've created for each other and actually focus on the people that we have sitting in front of us. I tell this to my students all the time because I teach research and research design, that when they go out to interview people, they need to understand for collecting data that when I go out to interview you, we need to look at you and actually talk to you, and not just look at you and make a story about you based on a book that we read, on a story that we think fits into their narrative, the text that has already been written. We need to allow the person to reveal themselves instead of having an assumption about who they are and what their life story should be according to some book you read or according to some movie you watched. So that's, I think, a lesson we can all move with in our lives. I get really impatient around people who ask leading questions. I often get that. So you must love curry because you're from South Asia, and I'm like, yeah, but I also love other things. And especially, like, you heard my life story. I've lived in 4 continents, so I grew up with food from everywhere. So our home food is very mixed. We don't eat curry all the time. We eat all kinds of food growing up. That kind of reflects the life that I had of growing up in multiple places. So I think it's important for us to understand that we should allow others to reveal themselves through our conversation and try and use our minds and our unconscious or conscious biases to not filter through the actual person that's sitting in front of you, and to allow themselves and you to develop a bond based on, you know, the whole thing that we read everywhere that we can do, living in the moment. Just live in the moment and talk to someone and just let out what you think that person should be about, and just experience that for that moment, and, you know, being open to that. I think it's really something we need to learn. And which brings me to the trainings that I do. This is the kind of work I do. I actually realized the importance of this through these experiences, that my life's commitment to work needs to be to create these workshops, talks, trainings, where I can aid others and myself actually. So when people do research, I strongly believe as a professor and as a researcher that when we do research, there's a part of us that really wants to make sense of something. And that's why we do it. And at least for me, and people that I know who do research, I really feel like and especially like, as I told you, I love work. So for me, I really strongly associate with my work. So my work needs to have meaning for me personally. Like it needs to do something for my own journey. And I think through the work that I do, I've realized that it's kind of important for us to help each other build atmospheres and environments that are more inclusive and allow for people to sort of reveal themselves in a more natural way, where we are not predicting or dictating what they should be about. So I'd love to have someone pick up one of the notes and ask me a question. I think that would be nice.
I think you gave answer to a question that I got. Tell us about the time when you decided to live in the valley for good.
Yeah, I think it was, I did answer it, but I think one of the main points of decision of really calling it home was when I was applying to grad school for the second time. After I did my master's at UMass, I had the choice of, do I want to go and apply for my PhD in somewhere else, or do I want to just reapply at UMass, because I really just loved my time at UMass. I got so lucky with my educational departments because I loved every single one of the 3 journeys, as much as I hated my K through 12 in Bangladesh, it was a very strict private school, a British strict prep school that, you know, I did very well in school, but I hated the model of memorization and sort of like the very traditional British way of education. And that's why I chose Hampshire. I wanted to like go to the opposite. Like I just did not want that anymore. I'm like, no way. Like I need to go to the school that really I'm motivated enough, because in Hampshire, one of the things is you really just, people underestimate how motivated you need to be to finish a Hampshire degree, because you need to know exactly what you're doing. No one's gonna guide you. You will just flunk out of Hampshire if you don't know what you're doing, because it's so independent. And I really needed that because I kind of didn't want the British education anymore. But I think after my master's, I had a turning point where I'm like, you know what, I love this area. I feel at home. I want to just stay here and make this my base. So I think that was and that's a very big pivotal moment for me, because, you know, for me, I met my ex-husband, her father, who's also from Amherst. So I had family over there. We have very good relationship I have very good relationship with my ex-in-laws who are from Amherst. And, you know, we see each other regularly. Her father still lives in the area. He's also a professor. So I just found my people and my community, and I did not want to go. And for me, that moment, the PhD application time was when I'm like, you know what, I think I'll stay here. And then afterwards, my journey of finding a full-time academic job was very hard because there's so many PhDs in the area. And so 3 years after my PhD, I got offers in other states, but I really just had decided I wanted to stay here. And so, yeah, and I definitely don't regret it, as I said. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, so we'll take a quick look, and if you can share this.
Sure. So what I would like to give you all an overview of my table over there is a couple of interesting tidbits. The book that you see on the right is the book that I wrote when I was 16 years old. I was a writer for a social justice nonprofit in Bangladesh. The black and white one. Yes, I was 16. And it was on forced male trafficking in the fishing industry in Bangladesh. That was the topic. So very serious, not about fashion and boys. And which, you know, is fine. I would have loved to write a book about that instead. I was an intern in a social justice nonprofit in Dhaka City for 4 years, from the time I was 14 to 18. So this was that was my sort of after school job or whatever I did. to get, I don't know, I guess I was doing a lot of things. And then this book came out much later, after my PhD. My dissertation was turned into a book by a well-known publisher, Rutledge, Taylor and Francis, and that one is coming out, and third book of mine, but the second academic book of mine is coming out at the end of this year with the same publisher. And I'm actually right now in the process of renaming the book because I didn't like the old name of Millennials, Gen Z, and the Fair Trade Revolution. So it is actually going to be changed into my model's name, which I just spoke about, the Inclusive Business Model Canvas, because really that is what the book is about. And I wanted to rename the book. I didn't like the book the name that it was coming out in. I have my business cards in there, and if you look at sort of the paperwork over there, that holds all of the different jobs and hats that I hold as a professor, researcher, author, and a multimedia producer. As I said, my show is partnered up with Amherst Media, and also my consulting firm. So if any of you ever need any speakers, workshops, trainings on issues related to inclusion in the workplace, that is my zone, as you can see, the work that I do. And I am lately moving away from talks, and I like doing more workshops because I find them more sustaining and also capacity building, because if you do a workshop with me, you leave with having learned something you could apply to your ecosystem. But if you sit and talk with me, then you either argue with me or you like me or you hate me, whichever. So I don't think you learn much, but I love doing workshops and I love doing trainings. So if you all know of a space or a place that you think would require work like this in whatever ecosystem you're part of, feel free to take my card. And I also have other printouts of my services with me. I can send that with you. So really it was an honor. Talked about some controversial stuff, but don't blame me. That was the title.